Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFonya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 103, Man Baby and the Peter Pan Syndrome. Today's mood music is brought to you by K. Michelle, Can't Raise a Man, 2013.
Because he's already grown. What you gonna do?
Yes, he already grown. That part. So guys, the Peter Pan Syndrome is not a DSM diagnosis. It is not. But it was coined by a psychologist in 1983 named Dan Kiley. Of course you would say that. And he coined it after a boy who never grew up, which we all know is Peter Pan. Mm-hmm. And this describes adults who age physically, but not emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So my question is, who is likely to develop the Peter Pan syndrome?
So I have two.
Okay.
But I will save because I don't know what y'all gonna say.
Okay.
People that have overprotective or strict parents, they tend to have like a lot of high expectations and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think people that have overprotective parents are going to be like very high on the list.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would say the opposite of that. People who have the non-protective parents that kind of just let them do whatever they want to do.
The laissez-faire.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. They don't really have any responsibilities. There's no consequences to their action. They're just free to do whatever it is they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I will genderize it. I will say men.
So if you can't tell where we're going to start at.
Exactly. Now, granted, like the ladies have already said, both genders can be coined this syndrome. But because there have been not enough research to determine who actually is not diagnosed. Nope, not diagnosed. Who's actually, who falls under this category. They say men. But they do coin women as two different categories, Cinderella and Wendy.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. Mm-hmm. Even though Wendy did eventually grow up in the storybook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it was because we are nurturers. So that's why.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So one of the things that I was thinking about, like, since, based off that question and the parenting style, that, it's the extreme ends of parenting that kind of lead to that person having that failure to launch period. There you go.
And they definitely do not have a secure attachment. Mm-mm. It's usually the avoidant ones, avoidant attachment.
Yeah. So, what I found for the overprotective / authoritarian parent, not to be confused with authoritative.
Yes.
So Psych 101 real quick, a authoritative parent sounds like they would be strict, but this is actually the middle ground where you would want to be in parenting. It is a good mix of giving your children freedom, but also having rules and boundaries. An authoritarian parent is one that has like really high expectations of their child. They use discipline, a lot of times corporal punishment, and they're not really responsive to their children, people that tend to err on that side because their children have to rely on them for everything when it comes time to grow up and launch into their own lives. They don't know how to do it because everything's been taken care of for them.
Yeah, they set them up for failure because they don't teach them how to be responsible. They don't teach them how to um, do financial responsibilities.
Mhm.
They kind of lost. They set them up to fail.
They don't give them the tools to grow into the healthy adult that we're wanting.
Mhm.
We got a lot of people with the problem of failure to launch. You know,
Mhm.
it's not just the man babies and the Peter Pan syndrome. It's a lot of people in today's society that are just struggling to do normal
Daily.
things. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it can also go on the opposite side too, those who are living in oppression because they're not used to having money. So they get used to not having it. And they get used to not having to be responsible because they don't have anything to be responsible over.
Right. That makes sense. I hadn't thought of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, that makes sense. What do you guys think about the permissive parent? You know, you were saying like you have free reign to do everything. Do you think that it ends up still the end result is the same, even though the method to get there is different?
Well, I think though permissive parents don't teach their children how to set boundaries or how to withstand consequences, whether it's negative or positive. They don't teach them how to do that. So it sets their children up to not have boundaries and have what I call mantrums when things don't go their way.
There's this influencer on the Clock app, and her name is Voodoo Bay, and she says that they be emotionals.
I like that.
I like that.
Hashtag emotional.
Yes.
I would agree with that. You know, it's hard for people that they were able to do whatever they wanted to. Like you were saying, they don't have an understanding of consequences. So when they experience them, it's so far outside of their understanding that they expect everybody else to bend to their will.
Mhm.
And they see very quickly the world just doesn't work that way once you're outside of your home.
Yes.
You know?
I think the difference that we see when it's more of the permissive parent and that child that grows into an adult is that there is more of a tendency for the narcissistic traits to pop up.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily mean they'll be full-fledged narcissists, but
Right.
those narcissistic traits are a little bit more pronounced because they're going over the liberties, like they're taking all of it.
Right.
What about the parents that are abusive?
Yeah, I think they'll fall on the other end.
Yeah. The more authoritarian end.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just
It's
more
just
toxic.
Mhm.
yeah.
And because they teach them how to grow up too quickly without giving them the tools, so they just frivolously just kind of
Mhm.
They create soldiers.
yeah.
Not to go back into his story, but it reminds me of the Will Smith
Mm.
situation that we talked about, a few months back or a month or so back. And his father was like that.
Mm-hmm.
His father was retired military, very militant, corporal punishment, all the things really that Dr. Strickland was talking about. And, if you really know who Will Smith is as a kid, he wasn't playing that.
Mhm.
So we get the America version, the boy next door vibe, and that's why everybody was so surprised when he hauled off and
Mhm.
reverted back to the Philly, West Philadelphia born and raised version.
Yeah. It's difficult, when you aren't given a foundation.
Yeah.
You're standing on stilts, just walking around shaking, and
Or skates.
that
Just slide through.
it can take a very long time to catch up to where your peers are that may have had a more stable, even if it wasn't completely stable, but they even had a slightly more stable background and upbringing than you did. You can be, some people are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, like just at that point in life, quote unquote, getting it together.
Yeah, that's that breaks my heart because I didn't grow up in that type of family dynamic. So it's like when you have y'all ever dated a man baby?
Yes. Yes, on both ends. I've dated the man baby that was raised by more of a permissive person, and I've dated a man baby that was on the super in your face hardcore.
Mhm.
And man babying is man babying. That's
Mhm.
what I will say. It's very difficult because what they end up doing is putting you in the place as their mother, really.
Mhm.
And I don't have intimacies with my children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any children.
I
But
say
the
that a
point
lot
is,
to my
I don't
clients.
want that. And
Mhm.
it I end up, me personally, I end up losing respect for them. I feel like they are being disrespectful towards me. I feel like they are not pulling their weight. And I've dated some men that were wealthy. And if all you're bringing is like just the financial stuff, and then I have to take care of every single thing else, I don't really like that
Mhm.
because you're not providing any emotional support, mental support. Um, you don't have a listening ear. It's just really all about you being doted on,
Mhm.
and that's weird. Like
Hmm.
I saw this quote, and it says, this girl was saying, "I knew I had found my husband when he wasn't trying to be a bad bee."
Ooh.
Oh
Because
wow.
they
Okay.
what she goes on to say is that a lot of people who have the Peter Pan syndrome or the man baby syndrome, they are the person who wants to be doted on and stay in this thought process of it's about me.
Which is
Take
why
care
they
of me.
get which is why they get misunderstood as being having narcissistic traits.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And a tendency also to kind of be a dependent personality. You know, they could end up leaning that direction, or codependent. You know,
Oh,
this is
gosh,
another
yes.
umbrella for
Yeah.
a codependent relationship. There's that saying, you know, opposites attract. So when you were talking about the Wendy is the mother, and she needs to be needed. If we're going with, you know, traditional gender roles here, she needs to be needed.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
we also have to remember when this was coined, which is
The
80s, which
Right.
is when those head of the household
Mhm.
type of traditional man husband and wife roles were still going.
Yeah, absolutely. And those two sets of individuals, they need each other. You know, the Peter Pan needs Wendy to take care of them because they don't have the ability to do it themselves. And Wendy needs someone to need her to feel whole and visible and present. So there you go. There's just that mix. Codependency. Here we come.
Yep. We done messed up all these people's childhood. I just thought about that. They're gonna be like, God dang, I can't look at Peter Pan ever again.
Okay.
And I'll be like, that's what was really happening. I mean, Wendy was taking care of Peter Pan, the Lost Boy, fighting Tinkerbell because she was in love with Peter. It was just too much. You got Captain Hook,
Yes.
who used to be a lost boy, but it's just too many things.
A lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not seen that cartoon or whatever, animate, whatever it is. I have not seen that in so long. I was like, yeah, I just remembered he had on green. A green dress or something.
A dress.
He had
little leotard.
Yeah.
Oh, tights. Yes. But yes, you know, these two sets of individuals, you know, they're almost like star-crossed lovers. You know, they are bound to find one another because, you know, rescuers and victims are magnetic.
Unite.
You know, it's Mighty Morphin time.
And the other one that they matched with Peter Pan is Cinderella because she wants to be saved. Now, if their relationship will work, who knows? Because they both want to be saved. So,
yeah, that's a depressive disaster I see coming. You know, because you two needers are not going to be able to
all kind of words.
Are not going to be able to fulfill each other's needs.
Yeah. Cinderella would probably be with the more narcissistic version because she's used to the abuse.
Good point.
Very good point. Yeah, I did not see Cinderella in my research, so that's a
Mhm.
when you bring that up, that's an interesting kind of
Dynamic.
other
Mhm.
side
Mhm.
of that coin. That does make sense when you say that
Mhm.
too,
Yeah.
because you can pick up if I'm somebody that needs to be taken care of, I can see those qualities in other people,
Mhm.
and it could be a draw.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kind of that moth to a flame idea.
That's what I was just because you think that now because both of y'all need to be taken care of, and that's actually not what you're gonna be thinking. Oh, it's gonna be like, oh, he's so sweet because they're endearing,
Mm-hmm.
and she is too.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it's gonna be like, oh, we just match because we're just so sweet and we just so
Mm-hmm.
lighthearted, and
All
we
the
just
sugars.
But then once you see that I'm not taking care of you because I need you to take care of me, and you not taking care of me because you need me to take care of you, yeah, we got a problem.
Mm-hmm. Now I got to go find my Wendy,
Yes.
which is one of the like behaviors of a Peter Pan. They
Mhm.
tend to leave relationships
Yes.
really quickly.
Non-committal.
Yes, because I'm looking for the next best thing. I need somebody. You're not quite fitting my needs as well as I need you
Ooh.
to.
Yep.
So I need, I don't just need a ma. I need a mommy. Like I need some, what I'm saying?
Yes.
If
I
I
talk.
could say this person name,
Please don't. Please don't.
ooh,
Please
Lord,
don't.
making my eye twitch.
Oh no.
Because when I have, female clients that tend to be a Wendy, I talk with them about, there's levels to motherhood essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for all the mothers in the comments, don't come at me because I don't have children. So hopefully this makes sense. When they're very young, you're mommy.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how you're described. You get a little bit older, you transition over to mama.
Mhm.
You get a little bit older, and then you become ma.
Mm-hmm.
So as you get old, if you're 40, you're usually not calling your mother mommy. But if you're with somebody that's a Peter Pan, they're not going to see you in any other capacity other than mommy,
Mm-hmm.
which any of those roles is not healthy. But even within that, you're going to be the most unhealthiest version of them all, which is the my baby. I need to protect you in all aspects. You are helpless. And the fact that you need me to take care of these things for you validates my existence in your life and even in my own life.
Which, depending on the level, whether it's because of the authoritarian parent or the laissez-faire parent, it can be something that has been happening all their lives, which means that every time you enable that person, you're telling them that they're incompetent. They can't do it. You don't trust them.
Mm-hmm. Just reinforcing it.
Yep.
Making it stronger.
Mm-hmm.
The very thing that you're upset over is such a inverse relationship or a paradoxical relationship, because the very thing that upsets the Wendy
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that you're incapable, but I need you to be incapable.
Mm-hmm.
So that I can do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes this weird cycle of you can't get out of it because I need you to be that, but I don't want you to be that.
Yeah. When I hear y'all talking about this, the first thing that popped into mind, of course, is the MMB that we're going to be doing this month. But there's a scene in it at the beginning that goes into the analogy of the crib, and you call your man
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
baby,
Mm-hmm.
he call you mom, or all
Mm-hmm.
those things. And I was just sitting here like, it's the conditioning for me. I was like, Lord, I have to stop this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
cyclical over and over again.
Yeah,
And then you
absolutely.
kind of wake up and you're like, I should probably change up some things because it's not really working out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you look at this whole topic. Made me look at relationships like, wait a minute, what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I don't have a man baby.
Because it can be very easy to go into this type of dynamic.
Mhm.
One, because of I would say for older individuals,
Mhm.
the way that a lot of us were raised.
Mhm.
You were raised to be nurturing and take care of and be the everything for everybody.
Mhm.
So it's easy, even if you have a partner that's not necessarily a man baby,
Mhm.
you still can have a fight to not be in your Wendy role,
Mhm.
even if they are a fully fledged self-actualized person, because the way I was brought up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
in general, in our culture, women are raised to take the place of Big Mama.
Mhm.
And Big Mama ends up dying because her blood pressure high. She got high cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody was taking care of her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just like, hey, at some point, like I said, we have to start doing it differently and conceptualizing like, who do I want to be as an adult? What do I want to, you know, not instill into others, but how do I want to influence the world that I'm in? And if I'm not contributing, then that means I'm just taking away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes with people having a discussion on what type of relationship you want to have. Now, if y'all want to keep traditional roles, that's completely up to you. But if that's not what you're looking for, then that needs to be a discussion so that both of you are on the same page, so that it's not that, you come home as the woman, you come home, you have to cook, you have to clean, and, iron clothes, wash the clothes. Like, no, if that's something that you want to, I don't want to say split like it's just her job, but if y'all want to take equal partaking in the chores of the home, then that needs to be a discussion so that
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows where everybody stands.
Yeah.
I have a couple right now who is trying to define this. They are literally Wendy and Peter Pan. Like literally, this is who they are. And the husband does not know how to survive
Hmm.
without her. If she goes on vacation, his whole world falls apart. He doesn't know how to parent the children as they need him. Uh, can't really keep up with like the routine and the schedule. Like it is very, very, very difficult for this family to exist without the mother.
Mm.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. And it makes me wonder, like, the longer you're married, the more dependent or codependent you become on one another.
Mm-hmm.
So because even when we go out of town, our husbands is like, well, when y'all coming back? It's y'all said y'all was leaving at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, sir. I mean, but it's not even
Mm-hmm.
that, they need anything in particular, but it's just like you said, the functioning
Mm-hmm.
without your spouse, I think. And so I wonder if it's more things to that, and not maybe your client, but just other, when people are in relationships, the longer you're together, or even because my husband and I haven't been married that long, but we still miss each other when we're gone.
Missing is different than being able to.
Function.
You don't know how to cook the food no more. You
Mm.
don't know how
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
to
that's true.
like
Yeah.
help the kids with their homework.
Yeah.
Like basic tasks that are a part of
Yeah.
your
Every day.
family's
Yeah.
everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
That
know
makes
how
sense.
to miss them. That's fine. Like I don't have a problem with that because I think you should desire your significant other, and you may not
Hopefully.
always. Sometimes
I
you
know,
get on
right?
their nerves, but that's okay too.
Yeah.
But as a whole, you should.
Yeah, be able to function.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What you
Absolutely.
gonna do? They pass.
Oh,
A lot of times that what
Well,
ends
we
up
just we
happening.
just talked
yeah.
about
Yes,
that.
in the previous
Yeah.
session, a lot of times, especially men, will die right after their partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's sad.
It also makes me wonder about the mothering or the parental figure in the relationship as well.
Hotness.
Because if I, again, my existence is also based off of taking care of. So when I don't have that role, so when it becomes empty nest
Mm-hmm.
at that point, and now my children are trying to go off and live their own lives, what does that leave for me? This is where we start to hear, well, I don't know who I am, I don't know what
I
I
don't know what to do
like.
with my life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's this sense of lost
Mm-hmm.
and aimless because my whole existence has been focused on care
Yeah.
and caretaking,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And that's one reason in sessions I normally stay on top of my parents is you have a life and you need to make sure that you are fulfilled and your children can be a part of that fulfillment, but they shouldn't be a large chunk of it. You have to balance that out because they're going to move on and they're going to leave you because they should.
Mm-hmm.
And that's healthy. That's one of the stages in the relationship. But if you keep them in a place where they have to be Peter Pan, like it's going to really derail the healthiness of the relationship as well as your ability to just function as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I have the opposite. I have to tell my parents to get a life. Like your life cannot be fulfilled with your children.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said that you tell them that they have a life.
But they got to get one. Like they have a life outside of their children.
See, I don't even get a life. get mama need to get a life.
Well, that's what she said in the MMB that we about to be watching.
Right.
She said, "Mama got life too."
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other things that I kind of, as we were researching, saw as part of the characteristics and traits of a man, baby, child, is that on the surface they tend to look very confident and put together because they want to look good and look presentable.
Yep.
But on the inside, they are terribly insecure and have a huge sense of inadequacy. And when they are confronted, they do not like, that being held accountable piece.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Okay. I'll get together.
It's one of those, huh?
All of this,
Mhm.
I concur with.
Mm-hmm. But see, and that's why people find them so attractive because they do have that charisma about them. They're adventurous, they're carefree. That yes, hunty. But then on the flip side, they have no goals, nothing. Like it's like you're not forward thinking at all.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're not even forward thinking to stay in this relationship.
Only enough to make sure that you're taken care of
for the moment. And then when you start getting to the point where you're putting a lot of pressure on me, oh no, I'm about to leave.
Or those individuals that do have, good careers, you do see the tendency to bounce around. You're able to get good career after good career, but there's not that stability.
Yeah.
Which can look like manic.
Yes, it could. One thing I was wondering about, if people that are in this kind of relationship dynamic, but they've been together for a long time, do you see a lot of breadcrumbing?
Yeah.
I'm going to change. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you. I promise you. And, that becomes the like future faking, that piece where it has some slight narcissistic tendencies, that promise of the future that I will get it together is enough to kind of bring the fire down some until whatever time period passes where it becomes inevitable that no.
Which is why we have to tell our people that it's been 10 years. And it makes me think about, even though they end up getting married, it makes me think about Carrie Bradshaw and Mr. Big.
For 5 seconds.
But I feel like that's what he was doing. He strung her along for 10 years.
When you said, I was like, big.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other thing is, they don't only it's not just their romantic relationships that the Peter Pan, they surround themselves with a variety of people that will fulfill their needs. So this is friends, co-workers, extended family members. It's not just their romantic partnerships.
And the thing about it is that can be a good or a bad thing because they have a lot of connections. So they could have a lot of connections. So, because they are charismatic. So they may know a lot of people. And it's
Mhm.
like, hey, you know a photographer? Oh, I got you. I got you.
Mhm. Mm.
What I find with the man baby is that there is a tendency to have extremely low self differentiation,
Mhm.
but high emotional intelligence for self, just
Mm.
not others.
Oh,
Mm.
I
You
would
know what
agree
I
with
mean?
that.
Like
Okay.
it's almost like a dichotomy. Like I can see everything happening in my world, but
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so consumed by it, I can't see anything
Mhm.
happening outside
Yeah,
of me.
that makes sense.
Yeah, because another world doesn't exist outside of me.
Never, never,
Again,
man.
why they look narcissistic.
And this kind of goes back to what we've talked about before, locus of responsibility and locus of control. Both of theirs is external. An internal locus of control and responsibility. I understand that I have to take my life into my own hands, and that it is circumstances are under my control. But for somebody that has an external one, it's the world happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to take responsibility because the world did this to me or a person did this to me.
Oh yeah, they're good at blaming others.
Hmm.
They why do they need to take responsibility? One,
Hmm.
they may not have been taught it. They haven't had to take responsibility.
Yeah.
So only thing I do know is to blame someone.
Right.
Yeah.
So sad.
It really is. I mean, it literally is you being stuck at that emotional state of really probably a 5, 6, maybe 10-year old.
I was gonna say maybe up to teenager,
Yeah.
Hmm.
teens, because teens are traditionally
Self-absorbed.
impulsive, very
Hmm.
self-centered,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna see that in a man baby or a man child or Peter Pan. I'm trying to think of a movie where there was a man baby and like he blew up but then grew up. Um, well, Step Brothers.
Mm.
That's a
Clearly.
Hmm.
if you ever see the movie Step Brothers, that's like man baby.
Hmm.
I
On
mean,
steroids.
on
Hmm.
steroids,
Hmm.
and they finally somewhat got it together at the end.
It's so funny because it was both of them.
Parenting.
Right.
They were the laissez-faire type,
Hmm.
super over the top permissive. Now the dad wanted to be a little bit more like
Hmm.
in the middle, but still both of them just let their sons do whatever. And they had middle-aged sons living at home.
Yeah.
How do you think this syndrome plays out for our culture
Hmm.
when it comes to mothers raising sons and they also have daughters? Because you know how they say mothers love their sons
Hmm.
and then they
Raise their
Raise
raise
their
their
daughters.
daughters.
hmm
So how do y'all feel that plays out with this syndrome?
If we're gonna keep it stereotypical, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the perfect example.
hmm
You over It's so funny because I've talked with several mother clients about this, about over loving your child. Of course you have a natural instinct to care for them and
Of
love them,
course.
but you can go overboard to the point that you paralyze your own child, and then it becomes again that paradoxical thing. It becomes the very thing that frustrates you later on.
hmm
So you're mad at them about the thing that you didn't teach them,
hmm hmm
but then you still want them. This is kind of like where some people say some moms like want to be their
Sons, girl.
so yeah,
hmm
you want to be the only woman in his life, which I need you to go to therapy
Please
if
and thank
that's
you.
where your head is
That's
at.
so gross and will literally run off the other person.
Yes.
Well, and what about the mothers who were in an abusive relationship and having to raise children and are no longer in the relationship, but still, of course, having to like play catch up to
Mm-hmm.
teach
Oh
their
yeah.
children.
Well, because you're both learning at the same time then.
Exactly.
And if we're building the plane as we're flying it,
That's a little hard.
it's a little hot. Yeah, we might
Mm-hmm.
start taking some nosedives a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that is something we do. again, stereotypically as a culture, that the daughters are raised, the expectations are different. Like you were saying, being raised to replace Big Mama, right?
Well, and like we said before, women are raised to be wives, mothers, uh, caretakers, home keepers, and men are raised to work or taught to work.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But then you get the man baby and they don't. Because I had some years ago somebody that I worked with that said that very thing, that in her family, the men specifically were not raised to work, that the girls were raised to, they took care of everything.
Yeah.
2, 3 jobs. Yes, they
I
took
would have
care of
divorced that
everything.
family so quick, fast, and in the hurt. But I wouldn't have known any different though, because when you raised in it, you don't know any different.
Right, because it was her family.
Right.
But then she in turn took that into
Mm-hmm.
her own.
Oh, man.
Right. So
Gotcha.
that's what we were
Mhm.
working through, was her windiness, right? And
Mhm.
trying to get out of that, and just looking at that generational curse cycle, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it. And how do I stop doing that when it's something that's so ingrained in my nature?
Yeah.
Interns, another example of this movie wise is Two Can Play That Game, and Wendy Raquel Robinson's character and Bobby Brown's character, their relationship.
Mm-hmm. It's so difficult.
I know.
It's difficult, sad, unfortunate, of course, unhealthy, but you can work through it.
And that's what I was just gonna say. How do you know if you have a man baby, and how do you get through it?
Mm-hmm. Well, one, if you feel like you're pulling all the work, if you feel under appreciated, that's a key to start paying attention to. We're not good at listening to our gut. We are
Nope.
very good at talking ourselves out of things, and this is whether you got a woman child or a man child.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, the not paying attention to our gut is that we have experienced something that made us question
Mm-hmm.
what we felt, and you kept believing it. And so now you have to work on forgiving yourself and learning how to trust yourself again
Yeah,
before you can trust somebody else. Because a lot of people say, I don't trust people. Well, you need to trust you first.
stop gaslighting yourself.
Right. Yes. Yes.
That's that self-denial is
Yes.
real.
You don't have to burn up so someone else can shine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that? So I remember. It's at 36. Man, that is so true, that we're not good at trusting our gut and our own judgment. So then we will stay in situations, whether this is the whomever in the relationship, will stay way beyond what is healthy. So first, is your gut telling you something? Pay attention to what that is. Start questioning it. If you feel tired, overworked, if you believe that there's an imbalance in what's going on, you got to recognize that first.
And be honest with yourself and stop enabling the person.
Yes.
And so let me, Psych 101. I know Dr. Strickland usually do these,
It's all right.
Psych 101, enabling. Enabling is when you do something for people that they can do for themselves. Point blank. That's it.
Mm-hmm. In an unhealthy way.
Yes.
So we don't want to be extreme and say because your partner went and asked you to get them something to drink out the fridge.
I'm not
that
going
means
to enable you.
Right.
Dr. Jones Hines, Dr. Strickland, and Dr. Wall said that is enabling you because you can go get it yourself.
Right. Okay. So let's be realistic here.
There's nothing wrong with being a servant for your loved one,
Mm-hmm.
but there are boundaries. There that should be
Mhm.
reciprocal. Like if you are naturally a giver, you're naturally a giver, but you need to put some boundaries on your giving because you can't give to the extent where you perish. Like I've said before, my mentor, she always talks about how you don't pour from an empty cup. Yeah, cool. No, she said you don't pour from your cup at all. You pour from the overflow that goes into your saucer. That's you can't have nothing in my cup. It's mine. But the saucer, for people who know traditionally, teacups, tea saucer, or whatever, that's what they get. That's it.
I like that philosophy because my cup is always full.
Yeah, but it stay overflowing because it's a reciprocal dynamic. Both of you are doing for each other.
Absolutely.
So if I go get me some water, then I can, like Claire Huxtable said, I'm going to get him some coffee because he got me some coffee this morning. I wish I could say it as fast as she did to Elvin, but I can't.
I love that show.
I do too.
That's called balance.
Yes.
Again, we're meeting each other where we need each other. I didn't choose a husband because I wanted to be a slave.
Right.
That is not what it is. And I know men that did not choose their wife or their whoever to be a slave or to be a money bank. So you have to choose people who meet you where you are at, and y'all can grow together.
Yeah.
And y'all can build together.
And I would say the follow-up to that would be, once you've recognized it in yourself, now comes the time to begin either that compromise or negotiation process. Go back and listen to that session.
Throwback.
Throwback. We do have one about negotiating and compromising. Because now we have to have that discussion on where are we really going to go from here?
Yeah.
And have actionable steps. Because if you just come up with a plan, but there's no way to measure that plan, have some sort of checks and balances, then you're going to fumble the bag. Seriously. So you got to sit down. What are the real issues, not just the emotions behind the issue? Because you can get caught up in a conversation that goes to the left very quickly if you only focus on the emotional impact. That needs to be present in the conversation, absolutely. But that can't be the only focus. We have to talk about the problem, the impact, and the solution, and then the follow-up plan. How we're going to measure that and keep on track so that if we start to flow back, the other direction, someone, wait. Remember, what we're doing is X, Y, Z.
And I would say communicate your needs, which is a part of what Dr. Strickland is saying. I think when we get into relationships, we forget about what we need, want, and desire and feel.
Yeah. Because we're trying to prove that we're worth it instead of staying in a place of observation of, is this person matching up with me and I be my authentic self.
Ain't got none of this.
That's a mic drop. Yeah. I almost feel like we could end right there.
Exactly. Boom. Right there.
Okay.
Hey, y'all know we normally end off with a quote.
Love it.
I believe that everyone else my age is an adult, whereas I am merely in disguise. Peter Pan. See y'all later.
Baby Boy is the M&B for next week. So
like, share, comment, subscribe.
Go watch the movie.
Facebook, IG, YouTube.
And we will be live the week after that. So get prepared. It's our anniversary. We're going to be doing big things. Please come and share our 2-year anniversary with us. And also you might get a couple of goodies. So
ching ching.
Must be his volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at The Recycled Podcast. If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.